participating in person and other members participating remotely. I'm going to ask the clerk, do we need to confirm our remote locations?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So myself, Member Marquez and Member Roche, we are at Hayward City Hall. I'll ask Member Cox to please confirm her location.
Yes, I'm at the Irvington Community Center located here in Fremont, California.
Thank you. And then our member from, I'm not sure who's participating in Ventura, so if you could please confirm if you're at that location.
Anna Olivia Eldred from the CAC, and I am in Portland, Oregon, and home for the holidays.
Okay, wonderful. And next, our member for Berkeley, can you please confirm your location?
Member from Tracy, Chair.
Okay, member from Tracy?
Yes, sorry, I was waiting for that. So member from Tracy, Mateo Bedoya, I'm participating from 421 El Camino Real, San Bruno, California, 94066.
Okay, perfect, thank you. And are there any other members that need to confirm their location?
No.
Okay, we'll move on. This is a notice that members from the public can participate in person or remotely. The information to call or log into Zoom has been listed on the agenda. And I'm now going to ask the clerk to please conduct the roll call.
Thank you. Albany, Berkeley, Dublin, Emeryville, here. Fremont,
Here.
Hayward,
Here.
Livermore, here. Newark, Oakland, Piedmont, San Leandro, Stockton, here. Tracy,
Here.
Union City, Community Advisory Committee,
Present.
Pleasanton, present. Alameda County,
Present.
we have a quorum.
Thank you so much. And if you could please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I believe we have a flag there in Oakland. And let's begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll now move on to public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the board on AVA community energy related matters that are not otherwise on this agenda. Public comments on matters listed on the agenda shall be heard at that time the matter is called. As with all public comment, members of the public who wish to address the board are customarily limited to 2 minutes per speaker and must complete an electronic speaker slip. The board chair may increase or decrease the time allotted to each speaker. Clerk, do we have any members of the public that would like to speak under public comments?
We have 7 people. We have a number of people with their hands raised.
Okay.
I'll start
I'm
with,
just going to repeat, this is general public comments. If you have an item that you would like to speak on that's under consent agenda or our regular agenda, we will call public comment under those items. So right now, again, this is just for general public comment on matters under the purview of AVA Community Energy. So do we still have 7 individuals that would like to speak?
we have 12 speakers at 2 minutes. Audrey
Okay.
Ichinose, recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Audrey Ichinose. I'm a resident of South Berkeley and a member of East Bay Clean Power Alliance, as well as the statewide California Alliance for Community Energy. We all deserve a big pat on the back for keeping our nose to the grindstone. But as a longtime advocate of CCAs, and having been present, like many of us, at the birth or for the birth of EBCE, now AVA, I wish to speak to the need for board and staff to press on with the difficult part of the journey, and that is we need to follow through on the local development business plan. that the board adopted in 2018. An important part of that task is laying out its foundation, as is done in the CCA Workforce and Environmental Justice Standards Alliance resolution. Alliance members and staff I know have been engaged in discussions prior to its adoption by the board, but before that moment comes, I urge that all of the language and concepts in the Alliance's resolution be adopted. I'm particularly concerned about the quote, the meaningful engagement of community-based organizations. As many of us know, it's not easy to reach out and engage our smaller, underserved communities, but doing so is the biggest test and measure of a truly local, equitable, economically vibrant, clean energy agency. I personally witnessed the agency's weakness in this area during its solicitation of proposals for community innovation grants. I cannot remain on this meeting for the later discussion of this of this agenda item. So allow me to say that what started the process that started out so promisingly.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Thank you. There was no follow through. So please,
Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa Yu, recognized for 2 minutes. Melissa Yu, you're recognized for 2 minutes. Okay. I'll come back to Melissa Yu. David Shulka, you're recognized for 2 minutes. Oh, excuse me. David Shulka, you're recognized for 2 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, my name is Dave Shukla, and I live in Oakland and am a climate fellow for the city of Oakland. I'd like to speak tonight in support of the CCA Workforce and Environmental Justice Alliance resolution. It does a couple of things that I'd like to emphasize. It reinstates meaningful community engagement and asks for a transparent process and clear metrics by which community organizations can judge this agency's actions for success. And second, it prioritizes the local build-out of clean energy, particularly in the built environment within ABA's service territory. I think this procurement, local procurement, should take precedence over those out of territory or as far as out of state. Third, it also calls for and reinstates workforce protections for small and emerging businesses, training and apprenticeship pathways, safeguards for skilled labor and union labor, as well as labor standards for operations and maintenance jobs. So I'd just like to speak in support again of this original CCA Workforce and Environmental Justice Alliance resolution to ensure standards and sustaining kind of high road good jobs for our community choice energy agency. Thank you. I'm sorry, my voice is, I've been sick. Voice is a little bad.
Okay, thank you for calling in.
Tim Frank, you're recognized for 2 minutes.
Yes, thank you. I'm Tim Frank, and I'm representing the building trades as a key member of the Workforce and EJ Alliance. And we've been very pleased with the discussions we've been having with staff. We've been working through the issues. There are a few remaining issues, but those are issues on which we are actually continuing our dialogue, and both sides are actually doing their homework. And I am actually quite hopeful that come January, we will actually have a resolution that I think the staff and our alliance can be happy with. There's no guarantee of that, but I actually think that the tenor of the current discussions is very positive, and we continue to be hopeful that we will get exactly where we need to go. So I want to thank the board for giving us the space to work with staff, and the staff for actually constructively engaging with us. And I'm hopeful that come January, we will actually be saying yes, 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 yes. So that's my hope. Thanks.
Thank you. Leslie Austin, recognized for 2 minutes.
Yes, thank you. I'm Leslie Austin, Director of Let's Green California. I too am here representing the CCA Workforce and Environmental Justice Standards Alliance of 40+ members. We have been engaging on a coordinated campaign for a couple of years now with CCAs across the Central Coast and Northern California. The goal primarily is to adopt strong labor and environmental justice standards for clean energy procurement. And we're actually really looking forward to staff placing those standards before the AVA board soon. I just want to start by saying how much we appreciate the leadership of Nick Chassett and Howard Chang in their work to bring further a workforce and environmental justice policy for AVA Community Energy. A draft of the policy was brought forward to your procurement subcommittee last month. And AVA staff has just been really great at being engaged in open conversation, and we really appreciate the environment of collaboration. As Tim mentioned just a moment ago, the Alliance earlier this week identified 4 key areas within the current version of the standards policy that remain open for our members. Those areas are of environmental stewardship, location preference, meaningful engagement, and high roads operations and maintenance. We see all of those as subject for further discussion. And just to zoom out briefly, and then I'll let you go, I want to clarify for the board that the intention of the policy is not to create and place policy mandates on the AVA organization, but to have clearly expressed values and preferences that are communicated to the market. And those values and preferences would then be evaluated against the responses AVA receives from the market. So we're sure we're pursuing high road jobs while meaningfully engaging the communities that host AVA's projects. So again, just really appreciate all the work we've done together and the upcoming opportunities for further discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Jason Gumatata, you're recognized for 2 minutes.
Greetings, board chair and members. My name is Jason Gumatata. I'm an organizer and member of IBEW Local 595, representing 2,000 electricians from the Bay to Bear Mountain. We're here in support of East Bay Clean Power Alliance, and we're also a member of the CCA Workforce and Environmental Justice Alliance. I'm calling in to just to make sure that you understand that it's important for us that AVA adopts clear standards for environmental stewardship as well as workforce development. We do believe it's the responsibility of the agency to hold developers accountable to these standards and indicate that higher quality projects will be prioritized in the procurement decisions. We ask the board members to instruct staff to address any outstanding matters with the Alliance in advance of submitting the policy language to the full board for vote. Thank you and happy holidays.
Thank you. Local Clean Energy Alliance, you're recognized for 2 minutes.
Hi, this is Jessica Tovar with the East Bay Clean Power Alliance. And I want to also echo much of what's already been said here, but to highlight the meaningful engagement portion of this resolution. As somebody who's been a long-time environmental justice organizer, the inclusion of community is first and foremost a very basic principle moving forward. In order to engage the community that you serve, and we pay electricity to you with the expectation of reinvestment back into our communities. Part of that reinvestment is working with community-based organizations to ensure that we are engaged every step of the way in the design of this process, because the only way we're going to create solutions to environmental injustice is to include the very people who have been shut out of the clean energy economy. And also noting that jobs for our communities are very important. If we want to continue building wealth at a local level and creating jobs with dignity, we need to support this resolution. Other issues that we want to make sure is the prioritization of the local clean energy build out in AVA community territory, because that is an investment in our local communities. Mandating to prioritize local clean energy developments creates jobs in our communities as opposed to outsourcing them to other states. Other things is clear standards for environmental stewardship, creation for more opportunities for small and emerging businesses, and emphasizing the operations and management of the job. I see my time is out, but I do want to, again, emphasize support for this resolution. Clean power to the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Marty Lewis, you're recognized for 2 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Margie Lewis. I'm an Oakland resident, a customer of AVA, and a member of Local Clean Energy Alliance and East Bay Clean Power Alliance. I'm speaking here today to alert you to concerns I have about important missing elements that AVA staff has cut from the proposed workforce and environmental justice resolution. The two main cuts and missing language elements are, first, meaningful community engagement. Including this language provides a vital step to help keep AVA accountable to the customers and communities it serves. Second, environmental stewardship of and prioritization of local clean energy projects. Including this language prioritizes protecting ecosystems and sites of biodiversity and indicates there are clear standards for environmental stewardship. We also wanted to be clear that it is the responsibility of the agency to hold developers to these standards. This language also holds the agency accountable to the mandate to prioritize local clean energy developments in the AVA service territory. Arguments that AVA should procure energy from projects far out in Arizona are not in alignment with the agency's mandate to prioritize local clean energy development and explore these avenues first. By reintroducing the two cut elements, the resolution will uphold AVA's commitments to the mandates laid out in the Joint Powers Agreement and Local Development Business Plan. I appreciate that you are looking into the policy the public recommended and that staff are continuing to work on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Beth Weinberger, you're recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes. My name is Beth Weinberger. I represent the Greening Committee of Kahila Community Synagogue, an Alameda County congregation of more than 500 households. And first, I'd like to say, because time is very limited, that we support the points made and comments made by Jessica Tovar. We work closely with East Bay Clean Power Alliance. And I would like to emphasize that we prefer the original language of the proposed workforce and environmental justice resolution to include especially a strong commitment to meaningful engagement with community environmental justice organizations. This is part of AVA's mandate, but has been sorely missing. And we've been following and supporting EBCE since before it was a reality. We also support the original CCA resolution to ensure good living wages that support families. Thank you.
Thank you. Lawrence Abbott, you're recognized for 2 minutes.
Good evening. Thank you. I'm Lawrence, and I'm a customer of Ava Community Energy and a union delegate to the Alameda Labor Council, environmental caucus that helped create the CCA through many meetings with many interest groups from labor and our communities. And I support the proposed CCA Workforce and Environmental Justice Alliance resolution. But it seems like Ava Community Energy staff may have omitted some language that was included in the original resolution from October, submitted in October. And I also think that that language was really important and, you know, much prefer the original resolution. The workforce, it had to think stronger language for workforce, labor justice and community environmental justice language, and that included operations and management for high road jobs. And, you know, that should be included in the labor standards of this resolution, including consent and administrative procurement policies. And also in Lathrop, I helped create the Lathrop Pond landscaping even before Lathrop was incorporated. I'm one of the founders of the city of Lathrop that helped incorporate Lathrop back in the early 1980s. And so the local environment's really important. I hope that the environmental language is put in there so that we, you know, definitely avoid ecologically sensitive and undisturbed habitat, and that we build out renewable energy in, you know, close to where it's used in the built environment, not in nature. So I hope there's that strong support for natural resources conservation and just transition. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bradley Cleveland, you're recognized for 2 minutes.
Okay, sorry, I'm not used to doing this. Bradley Cleveland, I'm an Oakland resident, and I buy my clean power from Ava Energy. I'm happy to fill out the electronic form you mentioned. I haven't spoken at these meetings very often, so I'm not familiar with that. Let me just say I want to support the previous comments, and I really appreciate your board and staff working with the coalition of labor, community, environment, and climate justice organizations to develop a model policy regarding workforce and environmental justice. As I said, I support the previous comments. Specifically, let me emphasize the need for strong environmental stewardship language. And also the Ava Energy can always do better engaging the community that it serves. And I think the first step is really defining what meaningful community engagement looks like. So that should be in the policy. For me, the really key issue really is jobs. And we need to generate good jobs, not just clean energy. And I'm talking about high road jobs and not just the construction, but operations and maintenance. And this means at minimum, prevailing wage and employing apprentices. So we're training the next generation of skilled workers. And finally, I support more community scale projects. And this is primarily solar, PV, and battery storages projects, 1 to 10 megawatts in size. These can be built in our communities on warehouse roofs, parking lots and parking structures, brownfields. And this provides jobs and training opportunities for people, local folks. Thanks so much for your time, and happy holidays.
Thank you very much. Melissa Yu, you're recognized for 2 minutes.
Hi, my name is Melissa Yu. I'm with the Sierra Club, and like others have said, I'm here to share my appreciation for staff collaborating on creating workforce and EJ standards for energy procurement projects. I'm going to keep my comments short because I'm just here to echo what a lot of folks have already said. So although we feel like there are gaps currently in the language, and we're really excited to work with staff to create a stronger resolution. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Elsa Potter, you're recognized for 2 minutes.
Hello, this is Elsa Davis Potter with East Bay Clean Power Alliance. Similarly, I'm here to echo the statements made in support of the Workforce and Environmental Justice Standards Resolution. Appreciative of staff already working with the community to try to put forward this resolution, and really hoping that the board can direct staff to include a clear definition of meaningful community engagement, which has really been a weak point for the agency, to make sure that there is engagement with community-based organizations, that there's a clear process for accountability and transparency on the programs, clear metrics for the local development business plan, for the agency really to be able to be held accountable, and for communities to evaluate the successes of the agency as well. Also just highlighting the need for the standards to really include environmental stewardship, as well as prioritization of local projects. There really isn't a need to be just building any or procuring energy from any source possible. Out in the Southwest, there's lots of built environment in ABBA territory itself that can be used to build local clean energy resources directly in the community. So really hoping that those aspects get included in the resolution, and we hear a more complete resolution in the new year. Thank you.
Thank you. There's no further public comment.
Thank you to members of the public that took time to call in. And again, I apologize for the delay, but happy you were able to join us. I'm now going to move on to the consent agenda and ask members of the board, CAC, or public if they have any items they would like to pull from the consent agenda. I will recognize our chair of the CAC first.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, there were 2 items. The CAC wanted item number, I believe it is 5, pulled, and members of the public requested item number 12. Sorry, it is number 6. Number 6, the CAC member reappointments and guide updates, and then the 2024 sponsorship of Oakland Roots and Soul.
Okay, so just to clarify, number 5 is contracts entered into. That's an informational, not that one?
Not that one. It's
Okay,
the CAC one, just number 6 and number 12.
Number 6 and 12. Okay, number 6, CAC member reappointments and guide updates, and then number 12, 2024 sponsorship of Oakland Roots and Soul. Are there any other members that would like to pull an item from consent?
I wanted to pull 12, but she's already mentioned.
Okay, yeah, perfect. Clerk, if you don't mind just helping me with the raise of hands, I don't think I see the other hands, but just want to make sure.
There are no hands raised in the room.
Okay. Thank you so much. So before accepting a motion, are there any public comments on consent agenda items other than 6 and 12? We'll take that up separately.
There are 2 hands raised at this time.
Okay.
Local Clean Energy Alliance, you're recognized for 2 minutes.
This is Jessica Tovar, East Bay Clean Power Alliance. I did submit a letter today regarding consent item C 2023-126. This is in regards to community innovation grants. It looks like a grant was granted, but it pretty much was not granted through a process between community advisory committee people, board members, and also it's actually $300,000 for 2 years, which to my knowledge, the application process, which was actually an RFP, was supposed to be over 3 years. And one of the big issues I have, including the issue with the process, is the fact that community innovation grants are supposed to be for community-based organizations, and they should be designed to be accessible to community-based organizations, not for-profit entities. There's a heavy emphasis on marketing than there is actual education in the community by other community-based organizations. So I do see a lot of things wrong with the process. And knowing that other smaller organizations who are doing education in the territory around going to schools and talking to students and their parents and doing demonstrations of induction cooking. These are the kinds of things that we should be funding in the community. So I just want to highlight that. I really think that we should be pulling that item as well, and really making sure that this is done in a fair way and accessible to community-based organizations, which it really is the heart of local development. And again, local development funds should be used for those investments, not for marketing purposes. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Lutz, you recognized for 2 minutes.
Yeah, Jim Lutz here. I'm a member of the Community Advisory Committee, but I'm speaking for myself at this point. It's about the contracts entered into. It's an informational item. It's number 5 on the agenda. And my question is more of a generic one, not about any specific item on this one, although I do have some of the same concerns as Jessica pointed out on one of the contracts. But it's how can CAC members and members of the general public see the details of the contracts entered into? What shows up in the agenda packet is the title of the contract, who it was with, sometimes the amount of money, and sometimes a very brief description of what the contract's about. But often it's very hard to figure out the details of it and what's covered. So I'm just asking, is there a publicly available way to get those contracts for review? That's it.
Thank you. There's no further public comment at this time.
Okay. Would staff like to respond to the 2 members of the public? Do you have any updates or additional information to provide?
No updates specifically, no.
Okay. So now I'm going to ask for board action on consent items with the exception of item number 6 and 12. So looking for a motion for 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, unless there's any discussion on 5, since we heard public comment on that.
I'll move on the items that have not been pulled. That's as noted.
Okay.
Second Bowders.
Okay, it's been moved by Director Roche, seconded by Bowders, and I'll recognize Member Aldrich if you have a comment on this.
Yeah, just quickly, when this item was brought before the board, there was all sorts of comment around the community innovation grants and how they were selected, and how precedent has been that there was a committee of the board that had participation from the chair and vice chair to select those grants. And so this one that's been awarded to a company has not had that participation, which is different from it was in the past. And it's also different from the amounts that we'd seen. So I would at least like to see a selection process that is more transparent than this one. That's all.
Okay. Thank you. And I'm going to ask the CEO, is this time sensitive to enter to this contract with the Channing Street Cooper Company?
This is an informational item, not this is your contracts that have been entered into, not contracts that will be entered into.
Okay. And when was that contract executed?
JP, I don't know, give me last month. So between our last meeting and this meeting, so our contracts entered into are for contracts that were entered into
since our last meeting.
Yep.
Between that time. Okay, so I will just comment that I appreciate the public comments on this. As a chair, I will note these concerns, and this is something we'll have to address at a later date, but do appreciate the comments. So there has been a motion made by Member Roche, seconded by Member Bowders. I'll now ask for the roll call vote. And again, this is for items 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11.
Great, thank you very much. Albany. Berkeley. Dublin. Emeryville. Aye. Fremont. Fremont.
She's trying to unmute. She's trying to-
Yes, sorry, I had to unmute and the screen went a little crazy there, but yes.
Thank you. Hayward.
Yes.
Livermore.
Yes.
Newark.
Yes.
Oakland. Oh, yes.
Newark,
Thank you.
yes.
Thank you. Oakland. Piedmont. San Leandro. Stockton.
Yes.
Tracy.
Yes.
Union City. Pleasanton.
Aye.
Alameda County.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We'll now move on to item number 6, CAC member reappointments and guide updates. There's been a request to pull this item. Before we do that, are there any public comments on this item?
There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay. I now welcome any discussion on this item or questions, clarification, or input from our CAC.
So we did send out the annotated version late. Apologies, it is a exceptionally busy season. So originally the restructuring of the CAC was an item that was gonna come before the CAC. We were going to make recommendations from our experience to help recruit and retain advisory committee members, as well as make recommendations on certain changes that could streamline the functioning of our body. We offered to form a subcommittee and have discussions around several hot button issues that have come up repeatedly, sometimes very vehemently, including inclusion of constituent demographics and representation, and several other items that staff have stated are very complicated and hard for them to take the time to get into. So this board gave the direction that the new CAC would be seated, like applications would go out in January and the new boards would be seated, and then we would have the opportunity to hold these discussions and bring recommendations to the board as we are both willing and excited to do the work. So we ask that the board approve staff recommendations, but pull specific portions of it for further discussion for items that are not timely. Specifically, we ask that you do not approve the 2-term limit for at-large members or change the timeline for filling vacancies before we've had a chance to discuss it. Again, neither of these are time sensitive. We also ask that you approve the 6-month extension for people who have moved out of county with the intent of moving back, but we will be bringing a recommendation regarding addressing housing instability, homelessness, and displacement. And just to note that we did not receive a red line version of the proposal affecting our body, and that the pages were not numbered, and this caused some real funny confusion at times during the meeting. So again, we ask that it is approved, but that you do not approve the non-timely matters. Thank you, Adrienne, for sharing that.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Chair Andrew, I'm sorry, I was trying to take notes, but also trying to find, speaking of number of pages, the additional pages to my agenda. So I apologize, I was a bit distracted there. So you said the non-time sensitive matters were, you want further discussion on the 2-term limit? And then what was
for the at-large members, they're suggesting that they only be allowed to serve 4 years instead of 8 years. We'd like the opportunity, since these members are being reappointed and they have a full 2 years before that comes up, we'd like the opportunity to bring a recommendation for how to address it. And the there's a recommendation in there to have vacancies filled annually instead of after 90 days. And again, they're starting the process in January. Things will get filled by March. We have time to have a discussion around how to address vacancies, and we'd just like the opportunity to do that. And additionally, we do expect to bring something back about homelessness and displacement.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on this item?
Or if I may, Member Ball?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so since this came before the executive committee, maybe I try to summarize a bit of that. So the term limit that is mentioned by the CAC chair was because the executive committee was trying to have the at-large seats, there are 2 of them proposed under the rotate geographically. Because Stockton's coming online, excuse me, you know, and Lathrop, and as we look to expand the territory, the general summation, and I am just summarizing what the executive committee was trying to grapple with, is how do you rotate these at large so that, you know, in theory, they won't go to any of the particular geographical locations. So for example, the East, Pleasanton, Livermore, Tri-Valley area only has 1. What if both at-large members were from there, and now we represent the same voting or membership representation as Oakland, right? And so the premise is that the at-large, and maybe Alex, you would like to explain further, but the at-large would rotate, and the way to encourage the rotation geographically or by region would be to have them term out after a certain portion of time. And I think we said, wasn't it? It was 8 years. Did I misunderstand what we ended up doing, Alex? It was 2 terms. It's two, like they could be appointed and renewed, right?
Yeah, 2 2-year terms is 4 years.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's what we ended up at for that. And then as to the annual, we also discussed this. The nuance is staff time, as everyone knows, right? Do you do it semi-annual, annual? This 90-day, given everyone can see the number of vacancies as listed on, I apologize, I don't know what page this is, but table 1, there's a significant number of vacancies. And so the executive committee felt that either an annual, semi-annual was discussed, but some process that the community then could have a cadence with so that it's deliberate and consistent. So that's what the consideration was. In light of that conversation, I was comfortable moving forward and supporting it there, and still am staff's recommendation. But Alex was the one staff presenting, so I'm sure he could add any additional information.
I think you summarized it quite well. Thank you.
Any further discussion on this item? Okay, I will actually move the item and agree with the chair of the CAC to bring those 2 items back to the CAC meeting in January. So just want to clarify, Inder, can we adopt everything but the 2 specific items that CAC would like an opportunity to weigh in?
Can I ask a clarifying question about the motion? I don't know if I made a motion, Chair, but if I may, I was supporting staff's recommendation to have those retained.
And did you say you were making a motion? Sorry, I don't know if you're just speaking in support. I don't know if you actually said making a motion. Sorry.
Well, I apologize. Let me clarify. I will then move staff recommendation.
Okay.
As
Is
drafted
there,
with the term limits and the annual vacancy, but I'm open for conversation.
okay. Is there a second on the motion?
I have a question.
Sure.
I just have a question on one component of it. I'd like to just ask the Community Advisory Council representative about the housing issue, just to understand what needs to be discussed or wants to be discussed and why what is its relevance to this. And if you could just share with me that, I would appreciate hearing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, there's a strong possibility that that when the CAC looks at these items, that hearing staff direction and hearing the feedback from executive committee, that they may be like, oh, this is the best issue. We just want the opportunity to look at the non-timely issues as a holistic outcome. And I work for housing and community development in my day job. I deal with affordable housing construction. We look really heavily at internal displacement rates, and some of I have some confidentiality things. So internal displacement is an issue that can affect our members. And so we want to take a look at kind of strategies to address that. We have a lot of internal displacement and a rising amount of homelessness in our community. And so we just would like the ability to take a look at how to address that in a reasonable fashion. Nothing in the staff's recommendation is against that. There's just wanted to highlight that we would be bringing back something, even though we do recommend that that portion is approved this evening, that we expect to bring back something on that topic so that it's not dismissed in the future because it was already voted on.
So let me ask, thank you for that answer. Let me ask you a different question. In light of the vice chair's motion, if given what you said, if we were to approve this tonight and also give direction to allow the CAC to discuss these 3 items and come back and we can have a future agenda item if you don't agree with any of these recommendations or you recommend future amendments or changes, would you be amenable to that?
I mean, we're always amenable to what the board recommends. The comments were made. It would be far preferable if the 2 non-timely issues were pulled and folks had a chance to bring to executive committee and the board a kind of holistic, this is what we think we can do to address this as a whole policy, right? Like as a whole, the way that the CAC functions, the other updates that we've been asked to bring, especially since we are looking at ways to return to the board's original direction of having constituent group representation. And so we'd like the at-large seats to be part of that discussion because we're looking at an expanded geography. We're looking at decreased participation from constituent groups. We're looking at a number of things. And since these are not timely matters, it would be better if we could approach those as part of a whole suite of changes that should be made. And we want to be able to bring those to you without adding additional burden to staff's time.
Madam Chair, may I ask one more question? I'd like to ask a question of staff. My question is, are there any members of the council who would be up for reappointment in the next 90 days? Are there up? That if we adopted these rules, I'm not sure what's exactly going on, but are there any members of the committee or council who would be up for a reappointment in the next 90 days who, if we approved your recommendations tonight, would potentially not be reappointed in the next 90 days because they would either hit the 2-term limit or there's another factor? That's what I'm really trying to just get at is there any risk that somebody would not be reappointed in the next 90 days?
No. If I may,
Yeah.
Member Butters. One of the concerns that was discussed at the executive committee is if you are going to take out for appointment the at-large and you don't disclose to them that there is a term limit on them, when would you, if you wanted to? Now, the intent wasn't a term limit. The intent was rotating the at-large. So if there's another method that the CAC comes back with that would go with that. But our thought was if you're going to recruit for that position, you should probably let them know the term of that position. Just like you did.
I would say that of the 2 items that are raised, the vacancy timeline is not timely. I mean, I think we will endeavor, with the appointments that are pending, we'll endeavor to sort of fill those as quickly as possible. For instance, we have an appointment, we're working to appoint for the city of Stockton, yes, for instance, right? We're not going to wait a year. We're going to work to fill that one as quickly as we can. So annual within 90 days, I think that's something that we can take a month or multiple months, and as we're considering. The at-large is timely. I would say like it is relevant to the prospective appointment or reappointments for the at-large, what the term is. So that I would say like that is timely. I mean,
Those are my questions. Thank you.
Okay, was there a second to the motion? It was moved by Vice Chair Bulch to go with staff's recommendation. Is there a second?
Can I amend my motion slightly, Chair?
Yes, you may.
I will amend it to say that the vacancy would be semi-annual and that we would ask the CAC to evaluate these for a future version that could come back for modification. But I still would be moving that the term limit for the at-large members of 2 terms apply so that it rotates.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
All right, I just want to ask a question because I'm not sure how to move forward, because if the chair of the CAC is asking us to sort of put a couple of things aside because they're not timely, but we're moving on staff recommendation, I guess if someone's sort of not totally understanding where we go from here, I don't want to be speaking against the chair since she has knowledge of what they're working with there. And yet I understand the staff recommendation. So I guess I'm looking for a little bit more input about how we compromise on what the request is.
I think the comment was simply that from staff's perspective, the term limits is timely because we are going through the process, in the immediate term, we're going to be initiating reappointments for the at-large, at least one, if not both at-large, correct?
Both at-large are actually on this.
That's right. So both at-large are being reappointed. So when they're being reappointed, their term, 2 2-year terms, is very timely because if they're reappointed and we haven't, then it would be sort of awkward to reappoint somebody and then set a term limit after their appointment has occurred. Whereas the timeline, the 90 days versus year, agreed, that is not timely to today's meeting because it's not going to influence today's appointments or frankly, near-term future appointments filling open positions.
Okay, so then maybe I see the CAC chairs, so maybe the other point about we make the recommendation with leaving it open for a future agenda item to bring back recommendations on those changes, right? Sorry.
That's right. Yes.
Okay.
So Vice Chair Balch's motion does just that. It leaves the door open for future, or it requests future discussion, and it does set aside the 90-day requirement, replacing it with a 6-month requirement.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm just gonna take one more last comment on this and then we've got to do a roll call vote. Chair, did you still want to say something, Chair Eldred?
Yeah, that's fine. So long as we can revisit it and bring it back, then that's okay. And we were supporting the staggering of the terms and had a volunteer for the 1-year term already, so that we would have that rotation up.
Okay, so we're now going to take the roll call vote on this item.
Point of clarification, Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Alex, just to confirm again, the 2 at-large are going fresh in. They will then have 2 future terms to do. That's what the intent was, that they would start at 0, correct? The 2 at-large members?
It wasn't stated in the staff report. They've each served 1 term.
So given they served 1 term with no limits, correct?
Right.
Okay, so I will amend my motion to say they start fresh as they move into this, and so can serve 2 terms. They start at 0.
Understood.
So on this new appointment, we're basically making a new at-large, so slightly amending my motion.
Vice Chair, since there's been lots of discussion on this, if you don't mind, can you reinstate your amended motion? And then I also need to make sure that we have a second. So if you don't mind just repeating, I do appreciate the dialogue, but I just want to make sure we're all clear on the motion.
Yeah, so thank you, Chair. So the motion is staff's recommendation, which will be 2 term limits for the at-large membership. Those will start fresh for any new person appointed or reappointed into those. That will be their starting first term, and that the vacancies shall be semi-annual, and that we will ask the CAC to weigh in for a future evaluation of how to alter or improve this for another rendition in the future.
And the motion is seconded.
And I'm sorry, is there a second?
Yes, the motion is seconded by Director Anderson.
Director Anderson, thank you. Okay, I'll now ask for the roll call vote.
Thank you.
Albany, Berkeley, Dublin, Emeryville,
Aye.
Fremont,
Aye.
Hayward,
Yes.
Livermore,
Yes.
Newark,
Yes.
Oakland, Piedmont,
Aye.
San Leandro, Stockton,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
Union City, Pleasanton,
Aye.
Alameda County.
Aye. And I'm just gonna verify with the clerk. At one point I had seen member Kell, but I don't see him on the list any longer.
Member Kalb is not at his, is not at the, not a, well, let me, actually, can we confirm that?
No, member Calv is not able to participate.
Okay,
Uh,
Not have
just
a
me.
person quorum here. And so
Right.
because he's not at a notice location, he cannot participate as a voting member of the board. He can participate as a member of the public
Right.
for public comment.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to verify that. And now we'll move on to consent agenda item number 12. This is the 2024 sponsorship of Oakland Roots and Soul. Is there a public comment on any public commenters on this item?
Yes, we have one hand raised. Local Clean Energy Alliance, you're recognized for 2 minutes.
This is Jessica Tobar, East Bay Clean Power Alliance. I addressed this issue on Monday night at the Community Advisory Committee. You know, I can't help but feel really just concerned at how easily this agency does large sponsorships for sports. You know, I personally enjoy going to, you know, different sports and I think it's great that there are sponsorships, but noting that, you know, back in 2021, there was like a $375,000 sponsorship over, I don't know, 3 years or something like that. And then now you're proposing like $196,000 additional sponsorship. And you know, there's the fact that you're giving money away for sports, but when we're asking for, you know, climate resilience and needs in the community, you know, we're going years on asking and really begging and pushing y'all. And so I do find it very insulting that you would propose like such a large amount of money for sports. That's number one. I think the other thing too that was really noted on Monday night was the fact that there's a heavy emphasis on the men's aspect of the sports and then a smaller amount of money that's going towards the sponsorship of the women's. And that is a conversation in itself. So I just want to say that, again, there needs to be more emphasis on investment in the local investment and specifically the resilience hub, microgrids, and all the things that we need to survive the storms because things are getting really ugly out there. Clean power to the people.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additional members of the public that would like to weigh in on this topic?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
One, Tom Kelly, you're recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Adrian. You know, I sort of joined Jessica on this issue, and for me, I just don't see the nexus between funding a sports team and the mission of East Bay Community Energy, or AVA. I think there should be something like that required for any donations. It's a little bit like the proposal that was made earlier by Mr. Chazet to, you know, give $15 million to Children's Hospital. So I think there should be a nexus, number one. The other thing is that this grant is intended to make AVA the exclusive sponsor on energy issues. This, to me, sounds like it's intended to preclude PG&E from doing any kind of a sponsorship effort. But, you know, I wouldn't fear PG&E at all if AVA offered a cleaner product, one that doesn't produce over 1 million tons of carbon emissions every year, and actually provides a competitive price for AVA customers. So I'm suggesting that you might want to go back and take a look at this and see if there's really any value in offering that sum of money to a soccer team. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no further hands raised at this time.
Okay, thank you. I'll open up for discussion or see if there is a motion on this item. Yes, Member Roche.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just wondering, and I got some feedback from our staff on this too, just questions about, you know, what is our impact, like, what do we know looking at marketing, like what is our impact from this kind of sponsorship? You know, given that it is about 40% of the total budget for major sponsorships, and what are our other large sponsorships like this?
So I will ask my colleague Annie to sort of speak to who the other ones are. I would say, you know, a couple things. One, we are now in a place where the Oakland Roots and the Oakland Soul will be the only professional sports teams in the East Bay. The Oakland A's do have potentially one more year, I think, at the Coliseum under their lease. But you know, they are out the door. And so I think from an awareness perspective, you know, the opportunity to partner with the only professional sports team that is looking to persist here in the East Bay is a great opportunity. We have found the partnership to date has been great from a customer engagement perspective, from a brand awareness perspective. So, you know, we're seeking to extend that one more year. And, you know, probably most importantly, the Roots team, the club with both the men's and the women's teams is seeking to build a facility by the current Oakland Coliseum. And so, you know, we want to see whether they're successful in doing that. That's why this is a one-year agreement. And if they are successful in doing that, we will then evaluate future partnership opportunities with them. But yeah, we really do see this as partnering with, you know, one of the more marquee customer-facing brands that is really rooted in Oakland and the East Bay. Annie, do you want to speak to the other sponsorships and kind of where this fits?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think what I'll start out with is your question about statistics and what kind of impact this level of sponsorship brings. So there's a number of things within the sponsorship itself, of course. It includes back a jersey sponsorship, the exclusive clean energy partner designation, field boards, an on-site booth, what we call event activation, streaming commercials, broadcast commercials, a clock wrap, a press release, social and video posts. But I want to back that up with some of the actual numbers. So last year, there were 19 scheduled home games for the Roots. There were only 6 scheduled for Soul. So I do want to address that question about why are we not funding the women at the same level? They don't have the same amount of customer engagement opportunity that we get with the Roots, but we are increasing our sponsorship from $10,000 this year to $46,000 if this is approved. So we are committed to them. We are helping them develop a new team in the same way that we committed to the Roots before their first season. And they have built a really strong fan base and an opportunity for us to engage with customers. And going back to that question about a nexus, if we do show up at a lot of events that do have a clear connection to what we're doing, whether that's bike to work or bike to wherever day, if it's Earth Day events, we are there. But we also need to reach the non-like-minded people, the people who aren't thinking about environmentalism or energy on a daily basis. So the Roots and Soul offer a great opportunity for that. I believe the comment was made on Monday that the accessibility of soccer is like a great equalizer in our society, and I fully believe that. So going back to those statistics, we attended 13 of the home games for the Roots last year. We had a total of 1,550 interactions. We do, in fact, track these. We have a staff member, and it is a large part of his job to go out there and be staff at the booth and engage with people and talk to people. And so that was an average of about 119 interactions at each game. We did 37 other events out in the community, everything from Dia de los Muertos to the Solano/Berkeley stroll to the county fair. And we had about an average of 89 interactions at each of those. So we really do find that people are engaging with us at these games, and they are currently located in Hayward. So they're at the Cal
CSU
East Bay.
Bay.
Yeah. CS East Bay. And then wanted to also just share the metrics on the average game attendance in 2023. They had 5,500 people in attendance. They have 71,000 social media followers, and they have 33 million impressions on their social media. So this is clearly a marketing expenditure. That's not a dirty word. It's important that we create awareness and that people learn who we are, learn what we offer, so that we can drive the adoption for our beneficial electrification and decarbonization programs.
Thank you. That's so helpful. And I think just having sort of some of that background and the data involved, because I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm a huge soccer fan. I grew up playing soccer my whole life. I think soccer is very important, and how rooted it is in the community, and everyone in a way can have access to soccer. I think the part of being a good community partner is really valuable, and knowing the data behind the marketing, you know, here I think is really important. So I thank you very much for that background. That helped a lot. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Are there any other members that would like to ask a question before I call on Chair Eldred? Go ahead.
I have a question.
Yes.
You can see I coach a high school wrestling team. Okay? I think kids are important. I coach wrestling for 50 years, too long, and I'm involved with the kids. And a lot of them don't know what's going on. I think, have you ever considered helping out some high school programs? We went crazy trying to get a wrestling mat. A wrestling mat costs $14,000. I live in Livermore, and Granada and Livermore High School between them have 10. We want one, just one. I have 30 boys, 6 girls wrestling. And, you know, I finally begged the IBEW, and they got us a mat, $14,000. But, you know, I was going crazy for years trying to get a wrestling new, we had one that was 20 years old. And we go to Pinole Valley. He's got 5 really nice mats. But all over, they got mats like crazy. But Oakland, we have a hard time getting any kind of equipment. I'm trying to get ear guards. It costs $40 each. And, you know, I had to go out of pocket and buy 5 of them. Because my budget for the year for wrestling is $400. A wrestling tournament costs $30, $300. So we get to go to one. And we raise money, a little bit of money, so we got to several. I'm just wondering, do you consider helping out high school programs?
So we don't specifically call out high school programs for any particular sport, but 3 times a year, we have an open window for local sponsorships. The maximum amount that is provided with each of these essentially, you know, giveaway of money is $2,500. We do ask that, you know, if you have a social media account, that you tag us and, you know, let people know that you got this money from Ava Community Energy, or hang a banner at your event. But it is $2,500 grants, or what we call hyper-local sponsorships internally, or community sponsorships. And we do that 3 times a year, and each tranche is about 10 to 12
So we've
awards.
done significant youth sports, Little League, soccer, robotics. We've also done, at one point, we were one of the largest sponsors for Oakland's Midnight Basketball League. So we, you know, it's just sort of, we cycle through, and, you know, sort of depending on where the opportunities are and where the needs are and the engagements we have, but we've done extensively.
You know, Oakland has a professional basketball player that painted the whole damn gym for them. And I watched the girls come in and said, "Where'd you get all your nice warm-ups and your bags and all?" Oh, the professional basketball player buys it all. You know, I'm trying to get the kids to buy cheap sweatshirts and a hoodie for $45, and 5 of that goes to the go try to sponsor a wrestling program, tournament. But IBEW, the way they did it, they put their logos in each corner. So for next 15, 20 years, they're gonna have the IBEW sign on our mat every time we roll it out. And that's how I got them to buy us a mat. So, it'd be nice to see Ava somewhere in our Oakland schools. Anyway.
So what I'm hearing from staff is there is funding opportunities. I'm going to make a request if staff, I don't know if you create a flyer. I know you're very active on social media, but when those funding opportunities become available, if you could please send that information out to all the board of directors so we could make sure to get that out to our network so they can also apply for these opportunities. I want to move us along, so I'm going to call on Chair Aldred and see if there's anyone else that has a comment on this item before we take action.
Thank you so much. Just two things that have come up. One was that we wanted to make sure that it said Ava Community Energy on the jerseys as opposed to just Ava. And also in response to the last comment, there are 112 public high schools in Alameda County. I don't have the number off the top of my head for our service territory in San Joaquin County, but if you were to give each of them $2,500, that would be $280,000, which is actually less than the initial sponsorship level for the sports team, and you would be reaching a little over 80,000 students. So just putting it out there, if our high schools need it, you could hit a lot of people really quickly for less than that initial dollar amount. That's all.
Maybe my only comment there is it doesn't have to be an either or. That's a really interesting idea and something we can take back around, supporting high school sports specifically and systematically, but that's not on the table in this current proposal, and I don't think it's an either or in that sense.
Okay, thank you for those comments. Are there any additional comments before I entertain a motion? Yes, Member Anderson, I believe.
Yes, thank you so much. I just wanted to echo what Chair Eldred said and just make the comment that we are in a transition period between EBCE and Ava Community Energy. And I'm not a graphic designer, I'm not in marketing, but I would just encourage us to use Community Energy as the bridge to the new name. So I'm hopeful that doesn't get lost in these marketing. I am very supportive. I do think it is important to get the name out there and the word out there. And I support this item.
Madam Chair, I have a comment too.
Yes, go ahead, Member Butters.
Yes, thank you. So this is a topic as chair of the Air District for the past 2 years, the $500 million annual budget. We took up the process of completely gutting, repealing, and replacing our administrative code and 17 policies we had, including adding a dozen new policies that didn't exist that we needed. One of them was a sponsorship policy. And it was a very educational process for me as someone who doesn't have a background in marketing. I learned a lot from Annie tonight, just about the value of community engagement and contact through marketing. What we discovered was that in the absence of the policy over the past 10 years, there were sometimes very dramatic and inconsistent acts by the organization related to marketing. And by developing a policy that included guidelines around marketing, kind of like goals for the marketing. I'm hearing suggestions from everybody, for everything from identifying with youth, which I think are a really important part. I think youth attend soccer games. I think youth are in high schools that need wrestling mats. But I think that there's a lot of things I heard here that sound very familiar to me as someone who presided over a lot of administrative process in the last year. And I just want to suggest that perhaps something that could be taken up as a work item under your leadership this year, Madam Chair, is to just examine the benefit of getting a formal policy in place around the prioritization and the expenditure of money for sponsorships, because it created a lot of better sentiment with the community when we did that at the Air District.
Thank you. I like that recommendation. Definitely would be interested in working on that. Are there any additional comments at this time? I do have a couple I'd like to make, but just want to see if there's any other members online or attending in person that would like to make a comment. See none, okay. So I appreciate the comments. I understand the concern and it is our responsibility as members of this board to be responsive to the public and to address their concerns in terms of the innovation grants, the microgrids, the concerns we've been hearing. So we will be working hard on that in the upcoming year. I was in support of this request initially. I just want to ask one question of clarification. Are we the lead sponsor now or specific to just one category? I know we're on the jersey, but where are we placed on the jersey? Above the number, on the front side of the jersey? Can you elaborate on where that placement will occur?
Sure. My understanding, I don't have full confirmation from the Roots, but I believe that Anthem is still the front of jersey sponsor, which typically you might call that the lead sponsor. I think their logo is the largest on the website. But we have been and will continue to be one of their purpose partners in the climate justice category, as well as having exclusivity as a clean energy partner. In terms of the placement, I have seen a mock-up of the jersey, and it does have community energy. I just can't remember if it's the stacked or the side-by-side, but it is, the logo placement will be below the numbers. That's the typical location for back of jersey placement. But that will be visible at games, on broadcast, as well as sold on the jerseys that they sell as part of their merchandise. And the Roots do have an enormous following on their merchandise. So though, again, it is purely marketing, but it's getting that touch point out with our customers, and you need to see something 7 times before it starts to sink in. And so it is another opportunity for us to create that awareness across our service territory.
And I do appreciate the comments about this being the remaining professional sports team in Alameda County. And I just want to let my colleagues know that yesterday on the Board of Supervisors, we actually passed a resolution to extend the contract for Roots to continue to train for another year at our Harbor Bay Parkway. So just want to assure you that the county is really focused on maintaining them in our jurisdiction. So with that, I will call for the vote. The motion has been made by, actually, no, we don't have a motion. Sorry.
I'll move it.
Who would, Member Roche will
Yeah.
move it and who will second it?
Right, I'll second.
Okay, so the motion's been moved by Member Roche and seconded by Wright. And members of the public can be reassured that we will be including community energy in the branding. But we'll now ask for the roll call vote.
Great, thank you. Albany, Berkeley, Dublin, Emeryville. Aye. Fremont,
Aye.
Hayward.
Aye. Yes.
Thank you. Livermore,
Aye.
Newark,
Aye.
Oakland, Piedmont,
Aye.
San Leandro, Stockton,
Yes, and to echo Nick's comments.
thank you. Tracy.
Yes.
I'd like to welcome Union City. I just would like to confirm that you're at the remote location. It's listed on the agenda.
Yes, I am.
Great, thank you very much.
And it's an aye.
Great, thank you. So Union City.
Aye.
Thank you. Pleasanton.
Aye.
Alameda County.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you so much. We'll now move on to our regular agenda, item number 13, CEO report. I'll turn it over to Nick Chesed.
Can you pull it up, please? Okay. So we have had we've had 2 committee meetings since our last board meeting. We held an executive committee meeting on December 6th, where we predominantly discussed the CAC reappointment guide that was approved today. And we did, actually our MRL committee meeting, we did schedule one, but it was canceled due to lack of quorum. And That next one will be on February 16th. I am pleased to share that we've hired a handful of new colleagues. Suga Lu has joined as our new outreach coordinator in the marketing and account services team. She will engage and educate members of the public about Ava Energy. Suga comes to us as a recent graduate from UC Berkeley. Dan Bertoldi is joining us as our electrification program manager. Dan is going to predominantly be working on building electrification programs. And prior to Ava, Dan worked at Central Coast Community Energy, the CCA serving California's Central Coast. Andy McElroy is joining us as a solar and storage associate and will assist with the project management and day-to-day operations for anything solar and storage related. Andy joined us from the NorCal business development position at Sunlight Financial, which is a solar installer and financing company. And then Lori Bilella is joining us as our Director of Business Development for Clean Energy Services. Lori will oversee development and operation of our local services, such as DC fast charging, municipal fleet charging as a service, solar and storage as a service, and electrification installation delivery. Lori has a long career in renewable energy and has supported the deployment of gigawatts of renewables. Lori was most recently Vice President of Soltage. Lori has a BS in Mechanical Engineering from Rensselaer Polytechnic and an MBA from Penn State. Welcome all new colleagues.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. Are there any questions, any comments before we open up to public comments?
Member Balch, Chair, if I may.
Yes, please.
So Nick, Justin, apologize. Maybe I need to do this under matters initiated, but for upcoming, since we're circling through the calendar year now, budgeting process and budgeting for the organization, is that, as I recall, we've already obviously looked at our audited financials. And maybe as I say this, I think it might be matters initiated, but for budgeting assumptions, trying to get a little bit ahead of it, do you bring those to the finance committee? Do you bring that to the executive committee?
Yeah, so typically we will do a first pass to the finance committee. That typically is in April. Then we will go to the executive committee it'll be that first meeting in May.
Okay.
And then we will present an informational item to the board in May. And then typically we will do one last pass with the executive committee and then go to a full vote in June.
Okay. So it might be under matters initiated, but one of the things that I know has been a constant discuss, and I'm bringing it up under a CEO report just because you've been discussing it, is we've talked about the cost of additional carbon-free energy in the budget, the impact of buying or getting faster on that slope on the, if the organization wanted to get steeper on the carbon-free slope for the Bright Choice. And so I just, I think it's under matters initiated, but I do want to encourage us to look at how we would do that. If we wanted to get faster, steeper slope, if we wanted to achieve carbon-free significantly earlier, how much would that cost? Does the budget support it? You know, we have our financials, maybe I should have brought it up there, but you know, our Q1 financials. So I don't know if there's board support for that. And I guess I mentioned it here. I'm probably out of line, Chair, sorry. Take a step back on wait for matter initiated.
Andrew, I think it's okay to raise this question to the CEO. I don't think there's any issue. Is that okay, Andrew, if we continue?
We're just asking.
Yes. So the answer is yes. Certainly, this will be a topic that we discuss
Early enough that we could factor something in, though.
Right? I think we have heard loud and clear there's an interest in acceleration. So I would say in that April initial presentation, one of the sensitivities we will present is continued procurement, both in the immediate term, so for the following fiscal year and potentially for future fiscal years. And in that, we'll also talk about things like supply constraints and, you know, what are the cost implications, but also what happens if we accelerate and in 2 years we find ourselves literally unable to buy, or our cost assumptions are shifted and we said, we assumed it was going to be $40, but now it's going to be $140. What is our policy? Do we keep, do we keep going, or is there a threshold at which we say, well, if we hit certain price cost limits, we'll just revert back to our original target, which is largely supported by some of the long-term projects where we have more control over price.
And the reason I'm bringing it up now is just the calendar year is completing, and as we look to what assumptions the organization is going to be putting into the budget, right, and buying more power, or many of our members of the public have talked about, that local development element, which I know we have talked about offline. So getting that sensitivity analysis into the budget and getting it early enough that the board can pull different levers if it so desires as a body, I would like us to be thinking about that. So I guess that's where I'm
Yep.
getting.
Understood.
Thank you.
Vice Chair, are there any other directors that have any questions or comments on the CEO's report before I call on public comment?
There are none in the room, Chair.
Okay, anyone
Yes.
online? Yes, Member Cox?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I would like to find out how many employees does this number bring us up to in terms of full-time employees working at Ava Community Energy?
I believe it's 73.
And where were we a year ago?
6. Yeah. Yeah. In the last calendar year, 19. So that would be 54. Noting that there's been some attrition, yeah, so a little bit more. Yeah, I think it was more, yeah, it was like 56 or 57. I believe.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there any other members that have any comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll now call on public comment.
We have one hand raised. Tom Kelly, you're recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Adrian. Ms. Cox asked basically my question, and that is, how are we doing on the number of employees based on our budget? Are we close to, hitting the number that we anticipated back in July, or, how many more employees are we looking to, positions are we looking to fill? So that's question one. The other thing is I would recommend that you get this cost of additional carbon-free to the board as early as possible, so that the board has an opportunity to look at various options rather than presenting it to the board, in the same month when they have to make a decision whether they're going to accept it or not. And let me say, the idea of power costing $140 a megawatt hour is simply, I'm going to say unlikely. I can think of a stronger word, but I mean, maybe if you're buying that power at a time when there's power outages everywhere and you've got to go into the spot market, you might pay that kind of money. But prices for renewable power, although they spiked this year higher than last year, they're still much lower than they were 5 years ago when EBCE Ava got started. So I'd really appreciate seeing a full representation of what it would take to get Bright Choice to carbon-free by 2025. We're almost there. We're at 80%. It looks like there's a lot of hydro on the market. Bright Choice has got another 12% hydro that wasn't anticipated. Almost seems like it happened by accident. So let's give the board an opportunity to see the numbers and work with them before they make a final decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Local Clean Energy Alliance, you're recognized for 2 minutes.
Hi, it's Jessica Tovar, East Bay Clean Power Alliance. You know, I was just noting that I had a question about like how many staff are on the local development business team, because that was a team that was supposed to grow. And then one of the things that also I think, you know, needs to be addressed is the fact that there's been a $5.6 million grant fund. And we really do need that money to be dispersed into the hands of community groups, community-based organizations, to be doing the community innovation projects that we need in our community that address solutions to energy problems in our communities. So, you know, I mentioned this before, there is a Justice 40 accelerator that is centered in equity. There is an organization called the People's Climate Initiative, I think it is, and they actually are part of the Justice 40 accelerator, and so they're really good at distributing the money into low-income, community-based organizations that represent environmental justice and disadvantaged communities. So I wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any more discussion around this before we move on to the next agenda item?
There are no further hands raised at this time.
Okay, thank you. So now we'll move on to item number 14, CAC Chair Report.
Really have anything additional except for the items that were on consent that we've already discussed. So just want to wish you all a very safe and healthy winter holiday season. And that's all.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your leadership, and please give our best to all the other members that are contributing to the CAC. We're now going to move on to, and I apologize, but my computer is frozen. So I believe the next item is requests from board members to put items on future agendas. Are there any members that would like? Go ahead, Member Roche.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so I wanted to ask, and this is not my original thoughts, this is a discussion with staff here in Hayward, but one of the things they raised was that PG&E is scheduled to increase rates to 12.5% in January, and that AVA's planning to do the same because our rates are tied to PG&E. So I guess the request is to look at decoupling the rates, given the last month, you know, we had an expected budget surplus due to the hydropower, and sort of looking at what it would look like to decouple, and would that be in our best interest going forward? You know, maybe you have some thoughts on that, but these are some of the comments I came tonight to ask about. And I guess it says these decisions might be tied to the budget that we adopted in June, so to have those discussions as early as possible would be good.
Thank you. Chair Eldred.
Thank you. So there were some requests that the board take a look at the NEM policies and proposed cuts that are coming up. That's kind of come and been pulled and come and been pulled. And so folks are looking forward to having that discussion. Also, some time ago, there was a request brought around figuring out the number of jobs created by Ava Community Energy, specifically being able to have some level of granularity that says things like union jobs and things like that is part of the local development business plan. It is one of the metrics that we said we'd be measuring. And a member of the CAC had made a request. We'd gotten a chart of sorts that actually, I mentioned that at a board meeting, the board gave some direction around staff time and CAC requests, and so that's been on hold. So we're requesting that there is a jobs report that comes to the board, especially as we move into an election year, being able to say things like, this is something that we've created. It would be really helpful, especially for those of us who work with the various labor councils, to have that information. And primarily that's it. So we'd like to see that come up on a future agenda.
Okay, very good. And I will work closely with the vice chair and the CEO to track when these items can come back for discussion. I know the list is growing, but we will do a better job of being responsive to that. I also have an item, I want to be respectful to staff. I know we're asking a lot, but just want to see if there's a way that we can conduct a peer analysis to see how we're doing in comparison to local CCAs in terms of our energy content label, whether or not other CCAs also have local development plans. So if that's a discussion that we can also bring back for next year, I'd like to do some comparisons and see how we're doing. I know obviously the population, the accounts, all of that is different, but I want to see the progress we made. And then I do have a quick question for staff. In terms of the local development, we were supposed to be reevaluating that. Do we have a specific month that we're going to be reviewing that? Has that been identified?
Yeah, we plan to bring a presentation really before the end of the fiscal year. So
okay.
I don't want to say a specific date, but in the spring timeframe is when we expect. And that is where part of that analysis does cover things like job hours. So all of that will be part of the review.
Thank you. We are now going to move to closed session. Closed session item is public employee performance evaluation pursuant to Government Code Section 54957 regarding the Chief Executive Officer. I will ask if there's any public comment on closed session.
There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay, so we're gonna adjourn to closed session. Those of us participating virtually have a different link for that. And then just to clarify, I believe when we come back to report out, we just need myself to do it. We don't need the entire board to come back. Is that correct, Inder?
Yes.
Inder, that's what she's asking me.
Okay, so we will now adjourn into closed session. Thank you.
And what room is it?
No, you know what to do? Here, I'll get the link. I'll forward it to myself on like Yahoo mail and then I'll put it on there.
Okay, perfect.
I'll do it. Thank you. So it would be from Adrian.
From Adrian, yeah, it should say closed session link.
That's what it is. I'll go for this. Here, okay, so. Okay, so it's right here. This is somewhere and then how far this. Why not? It wasn't right. Move forward. Share. Meeting. It's funny, I found it in here, but it's not like an email, so I can't pull it up. Forward it. It's like an item, I have the link. Maybe I think I can just copy the link. And email it to yourself. Yeah. That's here, starting meeting. Okay,
We could just do from the laptop.
should we do it?
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
because it won't take long, right? That's interesting.
has it come back? Okay.
Hi, Adrian.
Okay.
Are we ready to reconvene?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna call this meeting back to order for Ava Community Energy and ask our council if they have any items to report out.
No, we have nothing to report out tonight.
Thank you so much. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Awesome.
Bye-bye. Happy holidays, everyone.
All right, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.